And in Pittsburgh, the East Pittsburgh police officer who fatally shot Antwon Rose Jr., an unarmed black 17-year-old boy during a traffic stop, was charged with criminal homicide today. Officer Michael Rosfeld, who turned himself in on Wednesday, could face a sentence of 20 to 40 years. Prosecutors said that Rosfeld was never threatened by Rose on the night of the shooting. Zywan Hester, who ran from the car with Rose when the officer approached them, was also charged with attempted homicide, but for an alleged drive-by shooting that sparked the traffic stop in the first place. Following the police shooting, a Pittsburgh firefighter was suspended for making racist comments about the whole event. For more on this, we're being joined now by S. Lee Merritt Esquire, Rose family lawyer, and his co-counsel, Fred Rabner. Gentlemen, thanks for being with me this evening. First, can you tell us a little bit about the Rose family and how they're holding up amid this nationwide controversy?
If I could, what we've learned about the Rose family, Mr. Merritt and I, is that they're very resolute. They're a very tight-knit group. They are led by Antwon Rose Jr.'s mom, who's the heart of the family, and she seems to remind us a lot of what we've been describing of Antwon Rose Jr. I think they have a lot in common, but the family is trying to defeat this sorrow with love, and I think Lee might agree with me.
Lee, do you have other comments for that?
Well, it was a difficult time for them. There was a bit of a sigh of relief that criminal charges went forward, but charges are just that. They're very, very rare as it relates to law enforcement officers, but convictions are even more rare, and it's what the family is holding out for. And so until we get not only a conviction, but the appropriate sentence for this officer for taking the life of this promising 17-year-old child, the family is going to continue to be on pins and needles.
Well, since you brought that up, seeing as there's nearly about approximately 1,000 police-related deaths in America every year, in recent memory, only Michael Slager, the South Carolina cop who shot Walter Scott 8 times in the back, if you remember a couple of years ago in 2016, while he was fleeing that traffic stop. Slager is the only cop who was charged, found guilty, and sentenced for second-degree murder of Walter Scott. Do you have much hope that Officer Rosfeld will be brought to justice similarly?
Not if we don't do something different than what's always done. They say the definition of insanity is to do the same thing repeatedly and expect a different outcome. And so we're calling on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the District Attorney's Office, to do something different than what we've always done. And that may, in this case, we're considering mean a takeover by the Attorney General's office. That may be making sure that we actually get a jury that's reflective of this community, the diversity that exists in this community, because often the juries are all white and don't reflect the temperament of the community as well.
There's an implicit bias that isn't always on the surface when you're selecting these juries, and I've selected them in the past, even recently, with this litigation in federal court here in Pittsburgh on Leon Ford, a young man about 5 years ago who was paralyzed by an officer who jumped in his car. You believe you're selecting a jury that is answering the questions, demonstrating they're fair, but there seems to be this implicit bias that is underneath the surface. And I think what Lee is talking about, and I agree with him, is we have to do something different. We have to do something to get a jury of peers that reflects the community, as mentioned. Some fairness needs to flow out of this in a manner in which it hasn't in the past. We're looking at statistics today. It's just appalling. And even that case, firing that many times in the back, and you end up with second-degree murder. So there's not a lot of fairness if you look at the results across the country over the past years. So that's definitely the hope that I'm sure the Rose family is hoping to see come forth later down the line. But at the moment, with given all the protests and the turmoil that's going on in the city, how do you feel that the authorities in the community are currently handling this case? From the police department suspending the young officer, the newly minted officer, to the mayor himself. Do you feel that Antwon is being
properly served here, seeing as even the mayor has spoken out and said that he's calling for a jury trial?
Now, I'm just getting oriented to this community, so there's a couple of tricky things going on here. Number one, the shooting took place in East Pittsburgh. The mayor that spoke out was from the actual city of Pittsburgh. That mayor was faced with the constant onslaught of protesters on his bridges, in his downtown areas, in his commercial areas, and so that certainly had an influence on him speaking out on this issue. The mayor himself of this area hasn't spoken on the issue, but in short, politicians will respond to pressure from the people, and I believe it's the people pressure that has seen the quick succession of results in this case.
We're hoping for the endurance to continue to make this fight all the way to the finish line.
And you know, the mayor of another neighboring town called Arnold, she's raising some eyebrows, calling for some harsh treatment against the protesters who are demanding justice for Antwon. What do you folks have to say to her?
Shame on her. This is America. This is a country that has built its existence around protests and populist movements. So it's ridiculous.
It's called free speech. We wouldn't be here if it didn't exist.
And definitely, as far as we can see here in the press, the protests for Antwon Rose have all been peaceful, and we definitely hope to keep seeing it that way. Thank you for sharing your expertise and insight with us, gentlemen. Esli, Merritt, and Fred Rabner.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.